you have a city council and you have 5 or 7 people. You have some diversity of opinions. If you're an unincorporated community like North Tustin, you basically have 1 representative. You don't have a lot of diversity of opinion, and we have to get it right. One reason we have to get it right is that person may be in that job for 10 years if they get reelected. So I have one plug for the FCA annual meeting. That's on the first Monday in March, 2 weeks away, and that's our 56th annual meeting. For those who don't know, FCA works to preserve the quality of life in North Tustin. There's copies of the agenda on the table out front. Barbara's also going to circulate, Barbara, wake up. Barbara's going to circulate a sign-up sheet. If you'd like information about FCA, just give us your name and email and we'll send you some information. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters. It was tremendous that they agreed to moderate this event. I think we benefit a lot from the integrity and experience they have in doing these kinds of events. So I want to introduce the moderator, Stephanie Otto. Stephanie grew up in the Washington, D.C. area and started her career after completing a master's in Latin American Studies at San Diego State University and a bachelor's in international politics from Penn State University. Ms. Otto was a public relations and web consultant for federal, state, and local government and private business. Stephanie moved to Orange County in 2010 after living on the Gulf Coast in Florida for over 5 years. In 2007, she was elected as the youngest ever town council person in the town of Bel Air, Florida, and was re-elected in 2009. Stephanie was appointed unanimously by a bipartisan county commission on the Peleus County Planning Council and served in various other nonprofit and public boards while she was in Florida. In Orange County, she was the former president of the Rotary Club in Laguna Niguel and president of the League of Women Voters, Orange Coast. She enjoys a hobby of photography and is now the official photographer for the League of Women Voters, Orange Coast. Stephanie lives in Laguna Niguel with her husband and teenage son and daughter.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick. And good evening to all of you. As Rick mentioned, I am going to be your moderator tonight, and I am a volunteer with the League of Women Voters of Orange Coast. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and we influence public policy through education and advocacy. So I want to congratulate all of you all tonight for getting informed, coming here tonight, and for being involved in your government. We never support or oppose any political candidate or party, and I encourage you to visit votersedge.ca. You'll find these bookmarks everywhere. These will have, in any election, will have information on candidates. And again, it's a nonpartisan website. So check it out and pick up a bookmark. There's 7 candidates in this special election to fill the Orange County Board of Supervisors, District 3. The seat was vacated by Todd Spitzer when he won his election for the Orange County District Attorney. We invited all the candidates to participate, and as you can see, we have 5 here tonight. Election day is March 12th. Ballots are in the mail. If you want more information on how to vote, go to ocvote.com. Okay? To all the candidates, I'm happy that you've decided to engage in our democracy by seeking this office, and I will respect you by making this as fair as I possibly can. Whenever possible, the League obtains moderators outside the district, and myself and the timekeeper both do not live in the district. A note about recordings. The FCA is recording tonight, so that will be available on their website. But if any recordings are made by any member of the audience, we strongly urge the forum be recorded in its entirety and not be edited in any way. The FCC requires that videotape of a debate or forum not be edited and must be broadcast in its entirety. Both the FCC and the League want to ensure that information is not manipulated to create false or misleading impressions. Therefore, No candidate is allowed to edit or use the footage for campaign purposes. I feel like I'm leaving you guys out over there. I've already reviewed the rules with the candidates. We picked numbers in the back, and that's how we got our seating placement. And I'm going to ask the questions in that order also. I'm going to explain the rules to you all, as I did to the candidates. They're going to be allowed a 2-minute opening statement. They will all be asked the same questions. The questions were from you guys, the audience. If you have questions, we're going to be taking questions till about 7:30. So if you haven't gotten one in, try to get one now. There'll be an usher that'll come to you if you wave your card and pick it up. We have League of Women Voters sorting questions. They're basically going through and making sure there's not duplicates. I'm not going to ask the question of an individual candidate. Like I said, I'm going to ask the same question of all candidates. They'll have 1 minute to answer the question and a 1-minute closing statement. Please turn off all your cell phones and anything that beeps, okay? Since the candidate forum is designed to provide a nonpartisan setting for undecided voters to hear all positions, all demonstrations of support or opposition for candidates will be considered out of order. And I will stop things and ask you not to have outbursts. And if it gets too much, you'll be asked to leave. At the end of the evening, we're going to thank all the candidates, but until then, please hold your applause. You guys are here to listen to their answers, and if we applause after everything they say, we're not going to get through the night. So we are going to end at 8:30. We're going to end strictly at 8:30. Okay, I think we're ready to go. We're ready to go. So we'll start with an opening statement from candidate Polly.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Pauley, and I drew the number 1, and I hope that's how it ends up on March 12th. I do want to thank the Foothill Community Association and the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity. I am a firm believer that an informed electorate, fully informed electorate, will make the right decision. I know most of you, or many of you, I have been active in the Orange County community since I moved here in July of 1999. My policy positions are pretty well known, they're pretty firm. So I thought I'd tell you just a little bit about myself for those of you who do not know me. I've served in the United States Air Force in public affairs and media relations, internal information. I'm a graduate of the Defense Information School. I've lived many different places throughout this country, so I know what's good about this country and what's bad about this country, and I've lived abroad, and I realize how precious what we have here in the United States of America is and how worthy it is for our hard work and protection. In the 3rd District specifically, I have lived in this area for 2 decades, and I've gotten to know many of you in the community. I would urge all of you to read my candidate statement in the voter guide. I understand that all of the 3rd District is not the same. Each area, from Anaheim Hills through Yorba Linda, down through the city of Orange, the North Tustin area, the Canyons, Irvine, you all have different needs and different things that need to be addressed. And I want you to be aware of the fact that I know that and that I am available to you. My public service has always been marked by being available, being responsive, and being action-oriented. As a councilwoman for 2 4-year terms in the city of Villa Park, I earned the respect of even those who did not appreciate me when I first started because of the negative campaigning, because they saw that I was a woman who was genuine, honest, and forthright and open. I see that my time has expired. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Thank you. And good evening. Thank you for everyone who did come here tonight. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters and, of course, all the associations, because I know there are various ones here tonight. And, of course, my opponents here for deciding to come and have their views known. A little bit about myself. Loretta Sanchez. I'm a Head Start child, a public school kid, someone who went to Chapman University on a Pell Grant, a Grant A, and a Union Scholarship. And my MBA was paid for by the Rotary Club of Anaheim. I'm what you call a public-private partnership. Orange County is my home. I represented it for 20 years in the United States Congress. In 2015, I was named one of the 20 most influential women in the Congress. And what people said was, she knows how to work with everybody, she can get everybody into a room, and she can get things done. And boy, did we work on things to get things done for Orange County. For example, the widening of the freeways, the 5, the 91, the 22. I brought back the monies for that. The development and the build-out of the world's largest recycling plant for water, factory for waters here in Orange County. I brought almost $500 million to make that happen. All the research that goes on at UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton and Chapman, their programs, lots of money there. I also was the only one to vote for the ACA here. So a lot of the uninsured are now insured here in Orange County. Since retiring from the Congress, I've been working pro bono on raising private funds to build a 30 micro-unit apartment building for unaccompanied homeless women. So I continue to work in this community.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Wagner?
Thank you, Stephanie. First of all, thank you to FCA and to everybody for giving us the opportunity to come out and share our views, and for all of you coming out on what is not exactly a Chamber of Commerce day. I am Don Wagner. I am privileged to serve currently as the mayor of the city of Irvine, but before that was privileged alone amongst the candidates in this race, not just the ones that are here, but the ones who didn't come by today, alone amongst the candidates to have the fortune of representing you. I spent 6 years in the state legislature representing this very area, the Foothill communities, representing the entire unincorporated area of the 3rd Supervisorial District, and I was honored to do it. I'm looking for the opportunity to do it again, and in particular to bring back to you what was so successful for me all those years ago in all those different elections. And something had to be working because you gave me the opportunity to continue representing you. What worked? What ends up working is you go out into the community, you listen to what the community needs. And as Rick said in the introduction, you're a somewhat unique beast here in Orange County. You don't have a city council and a mayor. You really have to look to the Board of Supervisors. Well, I came out into the community. I get ideas for legislation from you. I get ideas working through your representative on the Board of Supervisors. I carried the supervisors' legislation in Sacramento several times and got done what you had asked us to get done. Look, I was a Republican up in Sacramento. It's not exactly hospitable ground up there. And I somehow managed to be the Republican to bring back the most bills of anyone in the caucus, working with everyone across the aisle to get done what you asked me to do. I look for the opportunity to do it again.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Murray. Christine is my formal name. You'll see it on the ballot. I am a wife, a mother, and an active community member like many of you, raising my family here in Orange County. I have represented Orange County both in the public and private sector in all of our communities for well over 25 years, the last 8 as Mayor Pro Tem and a councilwoman in Anaheim. And I have built a public service record that is delivering common sense solutions for our communities that really matter to those of us who are paying taxes and raising our kids here at home. I have, in my tenure as a councilwoman, we balanced our budget every single year, doubled cash reserves, restored police and fire, put in wildland management, and ended miles of homeless encampments while also putting in place the services that are needed for those who are most vulnerable in our community. As your supervisor, you should know I'm supported by 2 of the oldest neighborhood associations in the county, one almost 100 years old, because when they call or when they reach out to City Hall, I was one of the first to always respond, and I stayed engaged until we got to a point of resolution on whatever that issue was. I authored the ban on sex offenders in our parks that was passed unanimously. I made sure that we stopped the mobile needle exchange program that also would have operated in our parks, and I worked to put services in place that truly matter. including the Anaheim Taxpayer Protection Act, which I appreciate Irvine has now adopted as well as Newport Beach. That will make it harder to raise taxes, because when those taxes increase, it comes out of yours and my pocket, and we can't allow that to happen. There is serious work ahead of us in the Board of Supervisors, most importantly making sure the integrity of our neighborhoods remains intact, that we have a say in our community and how they govern, and every single time you make that call, I will be here. I will be here proactively as your representative each and every day. You have my word and my commitment. I hope tonight I earn your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Bales?
Good evening. My name is Larry Bales. I'm a Vietnam veteran. My whole family has been in every war that the United States has ever had, including the Revolutionary War. While working for the Orange County Assessor's Office, I exposed political corruption. I walked into a bribery situation with Radio Shack, and I had a decision to make. I could either go to the grand jury, or I could be a part of the corruption myself. I chose the grand jury. As a result, 45 indictments and 45 convictions, including your Congressman, Andrew J. Henshaw, 42nd District. He was the first congressman to be removed from Congress since the Civil War, when those people went south and put on the uniform, the gray uniform. I am again, and that exposure to property tax fraud passed Prop 13 with Howard Jarvis. So I am responsible for that being passed by the people, because he had tried to do it for 22 years and failed. I'm against the split roll, which they want to do now, and that's just going to tax you, not the industrial. I continued in 2016 to expose corruption in your government, your Orange County Assessor's Office, Webster Gilvery, 5 felonies, and he was not elected again. I do not support special interest or dark money. I don't have any, and I will not have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our first question is going to go to candidate, this is going to go to each candidate, but it'll go to candidate Sanchez first. What do you feel are the most important issues in Orange County? Please discuss.
Well, first of all, I think I believe for the 3rd District, one of the biggest issues is fire suppression. What are we going to do with our homes? I actually was living with my mother. I was staying at my mom's house, and she and I were evacuated last year. We were in this zone. Now, luckily, we were on this side of the creek, which means that we had an easy way to get out. But the answer is that a lot of people were pretty frustrated during that evacuation because of the road system and everything that was going on. So I think the first thing we need to do as 3rd District residents is the issue of fire. And I am the only one up here or in this race that carries the Fire Association endorsement. Secondly, I believe that one of the biggest issues is mental health. And the reason it should concern us is that we are using our emergency rooms for mental health. And so when we go in to use them, something happens, a heart attack or something, they are full to the gills. And so those two are big issues for Orange County.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner?
All right, most important issues. First of all, for the entire 3rd District, indeed for the entire county of Orange, one of the most important issues we're all grappling with right now is the issue of homelessness, and coming to grips with the fact that there are homeless among us, and how in the world do we deal with the problems. The realization is that there are lots of different reasons why someone's homeless, and it requires lots of different solutions, not one size fits all. And I've been fortunate, I guess, in the city of Irvine to be grappling with that issue, and we've made substantial progress. The point-in-time count for Irvine before I became mayor was 199 homeless. The current point-in-time count, well, we don't have the final numbers, but I'm told they couldn't find a soul. We're making some substantial progress in the city of Irvine on the issue of homeless. It needs to continue. The last issue, the other issue that I wanted, because I just have 15 seconds to talk about, is public safety. Now, my wife's old boss, a presiding judge in Superior Court, is here, so I really can't get into any details of what she sees in the trial courts, but I will tell you there is a substantial problem with overcrowding and public safety, and it's compromised by that overcrowding and needs to be dealt with.
Thank you. Candidate Murray?
Thank you. We've got serious challenges, but to boil them down to what I believe are the top three. First, it's open space, protecting our open space, protecting the integrity of our neighborhoods, particularly in the 3rd District. We cannot allow large developers to come in and target our unincorporated area as a free development zone. We have got to protect our neighborhoods. I am 100% committed to that. Thank you. Public safety is absolutely essential, and improving our deputy response times was something that I led the charge on in Anaheim, and you would have my commitment to do so as your supervisor. We will make sure we are reducing response times, and we are getting OCFA the resources and services they need, as well as early detection programs in our wildland areas. Seconds matter. We have to stop wildfires before they reach our homes. And last is absolutely homelessness. There's nobody up here with a better boots on the ground record than I have. I put together programs that provided services, and my program eliminated miles of encampments on that riverbed, and we will be successful by working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales?
Yes, of course. Homelessness is a terrific problem we're facing today. We don't have very many elected officials really taking care of it. I will take care of it. And if we have to build in certain areas, I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt certain areas, their values of homes and so forth like that. My second thing is special interest. We the people does not exist anymore. You're not we the people anymore. It's special interest in dark money. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, the second question will go to candidate. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Candidate Polly.
I actually do have a
She
couple.
gets to answer too. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you so much. I do
Sorry.
understand. I've moderated before. There are several issues that I think are important. The very biggest issue in the 3rd District is the fact that this area holds the largest area of undeveloped county-owned land, and that is what has made it so attractive to so many different people. I would urge you to look at the 460s and see who has exactly supported some of these candidates that are up here. I would consider myself to be the first line of defense on your side, on the side of the people. It does not really matter whether it's a special interest on the right or the left. It's squeezing out everybody in the middle. There has to be somebody that's looking out for the people first, and that is probably my number one issue. The second issue has to do with the invasion of illegal immigrants and all of the ancillary problems that come with it. That would include homelessness, the vagrant population, an increase in communicable diseases that had been eradicated from American society. There is a lot that comes with that. My time is up again. Okay, I'll get back to it. I'll circle back.
Thank you. Okay, we have a second question, and this will go to candidate Wagner first. What will you do to ensure neighborhood preservation? And then the comment code enforcement is written.
Okay, well, great question, because I know that is key to this area in particular. The earlier issue about widespread issues throughout the 3rd, I think we've all answered. Let me talk about that. What am I going to do? I'm going to do exactly what I did when I was mayor of Irvine faced with this issue, and it isn't turn things over to the developer. It is, in fact, say to the community, what is the community supposed to look like? What do you want? What's the character? What did you buy into? And how do we preserve it? We had about 3, maybe 4 months ago in the city, we had a project, the Rancho San Joaquin Golf Course. A developer comes in, he wants to buy the golf course, he wants to scale it down, he wants to put up 800 apartments. The community said no. The community came to the city council, and it was my motion that said to that developer, we are not going to entertain this project. We are going to stick with the specific plan, and you better get the community to buy into your project, or a council led by Don Wagner and a board of supervisors with Don Wagner on it is not going to support your project that changes the character of the neighborhood. Look, it's a simple matter of equity. You folks bought your houses. You've got a vested right.
Thank you.
That it continue to look like what you expected it to look
Thank
like.
you. Okay, Candidate Murray.
Yes, it does. So, first and foremost, I will honor the general plans and the specific plans of our communities. It takes an extraordinary amount of time to put those in place with all of the neighborhoods, with all of the stakeholders invested and engaged in those, and they have to be protected. It's an immovable issue. CUPs and zoning changes, when people have invested and counted on and purchased their properties and raised their families with the certainty and understanding of what their community would look like, we can never allow that to change, and I will absolutely adhere and enforce and fiercely protect those plans. Also, as Anaheim Councilwoman, I just want to give you an example of a public service outcome. We had slumlords really destroying neighborhoods throughout our community. I worked for a year with all stakeholders and neighborhood associations, and we eradicated slum conditions in our central and western parts of the city, and we have restored over 35,000 rental units. So it is truly about bringing up those property values and making sure that everyone who lives in our community does so meeting health and safety codes and the protection of human life. I will protect our communities with the same compassion and passion. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales? Do
Question
you want me to
again?
repeat the question? What will you do to ensure neighborhood preservation with an emphasis on code enforcement?
One of the things you do is you do not take special interest money or dark money, because that what happens then. The Vietnam, not the Vietnam, but the Veteran Cemetery at Irvine, they want to give it away. It's worth $500 million, but they spent $3 million with getting their people elected so they could get the cemetery. No, never happened with Larry Bales.
Thank you. Candidate Polly?
Yes, as I wrote in my candidate statement, I firmly am a believer in the specific plans of the canyon areas as written. I have watched this happen in pockets throughout Orange County where developers will purchase their elected officials to put in place to do their bidding. I understand fully that people have purchased their properties in reliance on those general plans as written, those specific plans as written, and they have a right to rely on that. The only way we would change that is if those changes were coming up from the community. Generally, those developers that are coming in have no skin in the game. They have no stake in how things are. They don't live in the community. They just want to get their money and get out. I'm very well aware of what's been happening with that. I wrote about it already. And I think it's important to recognize those that are jumping on the bandwagon because they're before you right now and they understand it's an important issue to you right now versus those who have lived it and walked with you and stood beside you as a councilwoman fighting against some of that encroaching development that's happening. We need to be very concerned with high density, low income, and placing homeless shelters in that land right next to your houses.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez? Okay, please hold your applause. Please hold your applause.
So I believe I'm probably the one who really grew up here in Orange County. So I know what Orange County looked like 50 years ago. And I have seen it developed. And the piece that I love so much of Orange County is the piece that you in the audience have protected for us, so that my children and my grandchildren get to see the real Orange County. And believe me, I use it and I take them out to see the nature, and I love that about Orange County. So I'm just surprised to hear some of the things up here. Check the developer money, because quite frankly, the person to the right and thereafter have tons and tons of developer money from their cities. And if you look at the records, you will see what they have done. So you know, it's amazing always to hear people say what they say at these forums and try to get away with it. But don't be fooled. Check where the money is, and you will see who's into development and who is not. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, since it was brought up. Dark money is a significant influence in politics. What is your position on the California Disclose Act? This goes to candidate Murray first.
Thank you. I think it's very important that we do everything we can to improve transparency, and I led efforts to do that in Anaheim as well. We have a lobbyist registration in place in Anaheim. I actually wanted it to go further than the council was comfortable, but we at least got that measure in place, and I think there's more that we can do at the county level to make sure we're tracking and that it is transparent who is funding our campaigns. I am very proud that I have hundreds of donations from individuals, and these are not wealthy individuals. These are people who are raising their families in our community that believe in the public service record that I bring to the table, and my purpose for serving is truly to make sure that we're driving common sense solutions on the issues we care about most in our communities. And you can check my 460s any day you want. They're all online. I welcome you to do so. And always, my cell phone is what I hand out. As a councilwoman, as a candidate, as your supervisor, you will always be able to reach me. Any question you have, just pose it. I get right back to you, and many of you already know that because I've been meeting with you as a candidate for supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales.
Like I said, we the people does not exist anymore. Special money, interest, dark money. For example, Disneyland, of all people, spent over $1 million getting their city council members elected, and received a $108 million parking structure, which they make $30 million a year. They made $60 billion last year. Can't they pay for their own XYZ? Their city of Irvine, $3 million from the developers. $3 million. What'd they get? $500 million of the Veterans Cemetery.
Thank you. Candidate Polly?
Yes. Well, I'm a big believer in transparency. I have been. I've had to fight for transparency issues for almost the entire time that I have been actively engaged in politics here. What you see is what you get with me, and I've always been a believer. I'd rather have 1,000 people give me $50 each than 50 people give me $1,000. I do not, and it's important to me. It's very important to me that we have absolute, complete transparency and disclosure in all things. One of my initiatives when I was in Villa Park was to have VPTV, the television, instead of having it through cable, where only those who had cable television could actually see it, have it live streamed where computers, where you could be in another country if you wanted to watch your council meetings, and then have them available on demand for people to see what's happening with their council. As I said before, and I fully mean this, our problem is not ignorance on behalf. It is ignorance because we're not providing the information that you should have available to you to make informed and intelligent decisions. If you knew everything you needed to know, I am positive you'd make the right choices.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I tried to pass the Disclose Act while in the Congress because there is way too much money in politics. It comes at you from all different places. If you look at your visa bill, and you know how, like in the last 10 years now, you have that little box that says if you pay the minimum amount on your visa bill, it's going to take you 3,000 years to pay it off, and it'll be, 4 homes later or something. Or if you pay, $55 instead of the $23, it'll take you 3 years, and it will be $2,000. That's called the Loretta Sanchez box. So I thought that was important because the visa companies were making all their money on just making you pay, leading you down the road of just paying the minimum thing. Well, in that election, they spent $3 million in the last month to try to get rid of me. So I know what it feels like to have that developer money and everything against you. And I am for full disclosure of what's going on.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
Thank you. This is great. First of all, just last council meeting, the City of Irvine increased our Sunshine Ordinance's disclosure. So I'm not at all afraid of disclosure. When I was up in Sacramento, we debated the Disclose Act. You want to know why it doesn't exist? Because the Democrats can pass it on a party line. So ask the woman they named the box after why the Democrats in Sacramento haven't passed the Disclose Act, since they can do that if they want. They don't. They're trying to hide stuff. And what you heard up here, and let's be honest, they're all aimed at me. Oh, the developers this, the developers that. Well, first of all, you can find all that information online. You heard about the 460s. That's candidate code for our disclosure statements. Do yourself a favor and check not just the disclosures, but go check the public record. In the city of Irvine, I have said no to a developer on the Rancho Golf Course. I said no when 5 Points came and wanted additives. I said no when the Irvine Company wanted to build out the Travel-Land site. I said no to all other development that's come. There was a flyer that said 10,000 apartments approved by Wagner.
Okay,
it was
your
a lie
time's
from
up.
the other side.
Candidate.
We approved 0.
Thank
That's
you.
my record.
Next question. This is for Candidate Bales. What is your plan? This is for everybody. Candidate Bales first. What is your plan to keep the county budget in control?
Well, I don't have any money, so
Well,
my expenditures are several $100s, and that's it. I don't have any.
shall I repeat the question? What is your plan to keep the county budget
County
in
budget.
control?
I thought my budget.
Yeah, county budget.
Well, when the developers put $1 billion in their pocket because they own and operate the city council or the county board of supervisors or whatever, here's an example on a national basis. Five tech companies spent $64 million to lobby Congress last year. Was your voice heard? No, it was not. Thank you.
Candidate Polly?
Yes. Well, I'm pretty old-fashioned when it comes to budgeting. You don't spend any more money than you take in. I am firmly of a belief that we have plenty of revenue if it is properly and intelligently allocated toward priorities of the people instead of priorities of maybe some special interest groups. So that would be my going in position always. One of the things I have learned to do over the course of time is rely on subject matter experts in certain areas. There is no way anyone up here, although they may try to tell you otherwise, know absolutely everything about everything. There's no one that does. And I have learned to rely on people who have some great expertise in financing. They are not in the government, oddly enough. They are outside of the government, and I like to take things to them for what I call my sanity checks. I believe in reducing fees, fines, and licensing that is unnecessary. I do believe that it's proper for the county to require a cost recovery for those specific services that are maybe for just an individual and not of general use. But don't spend more than you take in, and don't ask for more because you've got plenty. That's it.
Oh, thank you. Timer, can you just hold up the stop sign? Because if I look down and I don't see that it went up, I'll miss it. Thank you. Candidate Sanchez, thanks.
So here's our problem. When Prop 13 went through, our property equation, the formula at the state level, was sort of set in stone. And so most counties, when we send up $1 of our property taxes to Sacramento, most counties, on average, get about 17 cents back. Orange County gets 5 cents back. So the first thing I would do is go up to Sacramento and get more of our money back. We pay taxes and we need that money. We are hindered in the things that we can do in Orange County simply because we're at a disadvantage. And nobody up here knows how to go and get money the way I do. Secondly, I would go to Washington, D.C. and get more money. Yes, because you know what? With more money of our taxes we're sending out anyway. Let's get more of that back. because we deserve to put in the Orange County that we need. We can protect, we can conserve our natural parklands, etc., if we have that money
Thank
here.
you. Candidate Wagner.
All right, thank you. First, I think it's absurd to think we fix our budget by going to Sacramento, knocking on the door and saying, hello, I'm a Democrat, can you send more money down my way? Because they know where we are. They don't like us very much, and they're not going to send the money down.
Okay.
All right. What you do is you practice the sharp fiscal oversight that I've managed to practice the entire time I've been in government service. I spent 12 years balancing every budget I ever touched on the South Orange County Community College District. My last year in 2010, our budget was $500 million. It's amazing the amount of money that runs through government. I balanced every single one of those budgets without new bonds, without new taxes. Irvine wins awards. We are the most fiscally well-managed city, large city in the United States of America. We have a surplus of $4,000 per person. Anaheim, also on the list, has a deficit of $7,000. It is doable if you know what you're doing, if you've practiced sharp fiscal management. In Sacramento, my time is up. I was on every budget committee. I know budgets. I know them well. And I protect Prop 13.
Thank you. Candidate Murray?
Thank you. We need to adopt in Orange County zero-based budgeting to make sure that all of funding, all accounts are authorized and approved, and that we are never spending more than we bring in. But we also have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure we are growing our economic pie, that we are bringing in employers that grow middle-class jobs, that we are working together to make sure that the economy improves, and therefore the tax burden on us as individuals is lessened. I work to put the Taxpayer Protection Act to make it harder to put new taxes on the ballot for a reason, because everyone's instinct, and over 10 cities in Orange County have done this, is to go to the voters for more money every time they want more money. Let's grow it organically. Anaheim does have a good record of growing private investment to fund services. 50% of city services are funded through private investment. That is a good return on investment for taxpayers. Lastly, I would say I just recently, in my final act on the council, negotiated an agreement with the Anaheim Ducks. They are taking over, they're going to be here for another 50 years, so yay, we get to keep them, and they're taking over the expenses of the Arctic, so that is not a burden to taxpayers. Those are the kind of partnerships that leadership can bring to the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales? I'm sorry, here we go. See, I did it again. See, sometimes if I take one away, I add an extra one. It's got to all balance out. Okay, I've got another question for you guys. Orange County demographics are changing and becoming more diverse. How would you address our growing changes, and do you believe you represent that changing district? I don't know. Is it Candidate Polly?
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Okay. Yes, the answer is yes. Do I yeah, it looks like it. When I look at this room, I think I fit in pretty well with this room. You know, I talk to almost everyone, ages relative, having an ability to connect with people of all ages. I'll tell you, I am very concerned about what is happening, and it's because it's difficult for our young people to make it a go of it here. And part of that has to do with the cost of living, and part of that has to do with the high taxation and the high fees and the high fines, and it's just miserable for our young people. I think where my heart would be with helping them, and then our aging population that feels that they have to move out of the county, out of the state, in order to survive.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Well, certainly in the 55 plus years that I've been in this county, we have changed when you look at who lives here. We've gone from being, you know, orange groves where I used to play, and to more density in the more urban core of our county, and to, again, the wilderness areas that you all get to live in to a large extent. So the diversity is there, and do I feel that I can represent well Orange County? I think so, because I know what we were. See, history is very important. A lot of people don't have the history of where we've been, what we've tried, who we really are. And there's also that bridge that you have to make to who's also now here. And when I look at the things that I've done, like try to get the uninsured insured, like trying to bring up our education levels in our schools to the levels they were when I went to school in those school districts, I'm sorry, I guess I got stopped here.
Thanks. Candidate Wagner.
Orange County is definitely changing, and the demographics reflect it, and I, for one, don't have any problem whatsoever, indeed embrace it. Look, I'm serving as the mayor of Irvine. We are an extraordinarily diverse community, and we nevertheless managed to come together. We're able to boast about our safety record. We're able to boast about our great parks. We're able to boast about our fiscal management, and yet look at the demographics in Irvine. We will shortly be a majority-minority community, no problem. I am told we have 77 languages spoken in the homes of the Irvine Unified School District children. Is that a problem? No, because people are coming to Irvine, they're coming to Orange County for the same reasons people have been coming here for generations. They want safe schools, they want safe neighborhoods, they want a place to live and work and grow their families and their businesses. And it doesn't matter to me what they look like, where they came from, what their ethnicity is. There's that strength in diversity, and we've managed it very well.
Thank you. Candidate Murray.
Thank you. Yes, there's no question that Southern California and Orange County, by extension, we are changing, we are growing, and our both demographics and our cultural strength is that we are more diverse as a county. But we also chose to raise our families here, as my family did, because we love what is historic about Orange County, and particularly the 3rd District. In my neighborhood, we chose to live in a community that didn't have sidewalks or streetlights. And let me tell you, my neighbors who've been there since the 60s really wanted us to make sure when they saw us moving in with a little baby not to go running to City Hall and ask for those things. And we said, please, we absolutely would never change the integrity of this neighborhood. We chose it. And I will fiercely protect, even in a changing time, we can keep what's sacred about our communities intact. And I work very closely with the historic preservation community in Anaheim to restore what we could of the oldest city in Orange County, and also the packing house, which I hope you will see. That was one of my favorite and first projects to bring that back to life. We can do a lot to keep our history intact. Thank you.
Candidate Bales.
When's the last time you tried to go 65 miles an hour down the freeway? I have never seen so much traffic in my life, and I've been here for 40 years. It's going to take billions of dollars to open up these freeways, and new construction it has to be curtailed to a certain extent so we can get to work and back. It's going to take a lot of money to do that. We pay the highest gas taxes in the world, I think, but that's been diverted to other things, and so we need highways. We need representation in Sacramento and local.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is, what is your biggest mistake in policy to date? So we're going to start. I'm sorry. Do you have a question? No? Okay, so we're going to start with candidate Sanchez.
Wow.
Is it hard to pick, or Come on, I owed her that one.
We are running the timer.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely, absolutely. What is your biggest mistake in policy to date?
I think my biggest mistake in policy was to allow, to bring back the monies to help with the high-speed rail and to see the people who are running that program run it into the ground and not get it done.
Thank you. Okay, candidate Wagner.
Yeah, that is a tough a tough question for all of us. I mean, we always tend to think through our positions and try not to make mistakes. But, you know, at the end of the day, I have been responsible for supporting folks who have proven not to be up to the challenges. Probably it's not good to mention names, but, you know, when you're a team member, a member of a caucus up in Sacramento, and you're going through a lot of struggles up there, together it can sometimes you know, make you feel like it's us against the world, and you end up supporting folks that maybe at the end of the day disappoint you in their votes, or they disappoint you in some of their personal deportment. And I think, to be honest, in trying to work with as many people and you know, be as inclusive as possible, I have made found some support up in Sacramento, and supported folks who ended up not deserving it. And as I look back, I do wish I had been a little more careful and judicious in some of those choices.
Thank you. Candidate Murray.
Thank you. Certainly early on in my tenure as a councilwoman, I was probably a little too trusting occasionally of staff, and didn't know yet how to push back, or where the critical questions might be, or where you could actually push the envelope a little bit. And I really got my footing and learned to do that quite well by the end. And I absolutely will stand up every single day for the residents that I serve, and make sure that your voice is heard both on the ground and at the Civic Center. We have got to make sure that we are addressing the concerns that matter most, which are public safety, making sure that we are protecting ourselves from wildfires and wildland issues, and make sure that we are growing the economy and restoring middle-class jobs, and finally addressing homeless in a long-term sustainable way. As a very specific example that I was referencing up front, I accepted a recommendation to contract out park maintenance. And I regret that decision. We did it because of fiduciary reasons at the time, but I believe that having people there every day who know the parks and know the families was critical, and getting that restored was important. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales.
Yes. Again, representation. Ours, we the people. I think that's has gone away. And again, 5 tech companies spent $64 million to lobby your Congress, and you didn't have even a squeak of voice. Today, special interests, dark money, rules the roost. And we do not have we the people anymore. It's just gone. And I'm concerned about this. You know, it used to be Radio Shack and others. It was called bribery. But now, I don't know what you can call it. It's bad. And we need to regain our strength, the people.
Thank you. Candidate Polly?
Yes, I can actually relate to something Chris Murray said on this. When I first got elected to the Villa Park City Council, and I realize it's a small city, but it's really a great case study, a digestible case study on how government gets pressed to do things that really aren't in the best interest of the people. It was not trusting my own gut instinct enough to employ the common sense that God gave me and push back, you know, allowing them to push me in a direction that wasn't right. It took me a little while to realize that, no, I was right, and I didn't need to listen to these people. But I'd like to help Loretta with her answer. One of her worst policy decisions was voting yes on Obamacare. I would like to help Don, but one of his worst policy decisions was very recently when he pushed to shut down the Veterans Cemetery.
Let's not.
Well, it is responsive. I think these are important issues for people. I'm a veteran. I know there are a lot of veterans in this
I'm going to
community.
have to allow additional questions to address those, so
okay.
Move on with your time. Okay, next one. Thank you. Number 7, question number 7. How will you use the new Joint Powers Authority created for homelessness to encourage cities to collaborate with the county?
I back that JPA, although I'll tell you quite reluctantly. There's been talk up here about the OCFA and how the firefighters are backing Ms. Sanchez. Well, that's a JPA, and Sacramento, at the behest of the union that backs Ms. Sanchez, came in and just unilaterally threatened to change the deal on the cities that were members of the OCFA. Why do I tell you that? Because a JPA organization to deal with homelessness is susceptible to exactly the same sorts of, let's just say, shenanigans from the state, because JPAs cannot withstand state pressure. They are not allowed to by law. So you've got to treat it very, very carefully. But it does allow us an opportunity to not get beds tonight for folks that are homeless, but it allows for transitional housing, which Irvine excels at, by the way. We've got 9% of the population, 18% of the transitional beds. We can use that JPA to leverage and build that out through the rest of the county.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for a moment. I want to give you guys a lot of leeway in answering questions. I just want you to focus on answering the question, because if we open it up, we're going to have to ask more questions to address some of those things. Okay, Candidate Murray.
Thank you. So the Housing Finance Trust was set up by cities because they didn't feel they had a strong enough voice in receiving and being able to utilize the funding that goes to the county primarily to solve the homeless crisis, and yet it's the cities who are bearing the burden. And so that trust was set up not to impose one-size-fits-all applications, but as a resource should a city have a plan, whether it's to solve or provide housing for disabled homeless women, there's quite a few in our communities, or veterans or emancipated foster kids, or if they prefer to provide a mental health facility, whatever it is, it will be the community that makes that determination. And then rather than having the funding burden the general fund or pull from public safety or core city services, they can go to the Housing Finance Trust for that gap funding and make sure the project moves forward. But it will be done from a grassroots level, not from a JPA, the state, or the county telling a community what to do, and that's why I supported it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales?
Homelessness is a terrific, bad problem, and there's not any solutions to it, good ones. I would be very selective as to where they were placed. And no one in this room wants it in their neighborhood, that's for sure. And I would be very sensitive to where that place is. And but it has to be done someplace. And I would not have individual apartments for these people. I would have like a basketball court type situation so they could stay there. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Polly?
Yes, well, first of all, I would have opposed the JPA, absolutely, because what we are doing is that's expanding government, that's creating a new agency, and that's the absolute opposite of what I would stand for. I believe in smaller government, and when you harden something, that's what they've done. They've hardened now the homelessness crisis in this area. And it is a crisis that didn't need to be a crisis. There were elected officials in place, many of them are sitting here with me, that had the power at that time to draw it in when it was still a small problem and nip it in the bud, which is how you deal with things of this nature, instead of waiting until it has become a crisis proportion so that they can force something on your communities. And that has to do with permanent homeless shelters. No, these should not be happening. Once you accept permanent, that means it's here forever. You know, I was in the military. People out here were in the military. 10 cities work fine. Temporary shelters house them. Get those who need help, the help that they need, those that are willing to get that help. The state of California has spent $10 billion in the last few years on homelessness, and we're not any better off than we were before.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Sanchez?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it is so sad that a federal judge had to come at the county and the cities and say, do something about this. For 2 years, those people were on the homeless were on the Santa Ana River Trail in Anaheim, and nothing was done by that city council. You know, some people at this table, and you know who it is, wanted to put a homeless shelter at a school in the canyon area, you know, because they didn't want any of that problem in their city. So the answer is, we have homelessness for various reasons. Housing costs, the regulations and the fees to build a home, the lack of rehab beds, because it's also a drug problem at some point, the mental illness that I talked about before. This is not an easy issue to tackle. It is not just, let's make a shelter here or what have you. People need wraparound services, and the county is where they are supposed to supply those services, and they have failed us. The Board of Supervisors failed us, and our city officials failed us.
Thank you. We'll go to the next question. The first one to answer will be, oh wait, have I got, yeah, I'm sorry, I've got it all here, and then I second-guessed myself. We talked about that a little. According to the last report by the OC Human Relations Council, hate crimes have risen dramatically, particularly against Jews and Muslims, over the past 3 years. What will you do as a 3rd District Supervisor to help turn the trend around? Yeah, candidate Murray.
Thank you. I thought you were motioning to candidate Wagner, so I
No,
hope
I
I took my
was
time
motioning
over. Anyway, I just want to make sure we're on the right page. First and foremost, it is a tragedy that hate crime is on the rise the way it is, and it's really directed at so many different individuals, and we've got to do what we can to reduce that temperament that is allowing that, whether it's social media and bullying of our kids in schools, or going after individuals because of their faith or their lifestyle or who they are as individuals and their culture. It's just unacceptable on every level. I'm actually being attacked, and many of you receive it potentially in your mailbox or in your voters, but by a reclusive billionaire who funds hate groups, Howard Amundsen. So please accept that for what it is. I have stood up to protect the residents of Anaheim, of all cultures, of all diversity, because human beings come first, and I will always put community over politics and stand up for the rights of any individual that is threatened because of who they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bales.
Yes, I support every human being there is. Black, yellow, green, purple, it doesn't matter to me. They're all equal. And they should be looked at and treated with the equal everything that we have. There are prejudice out there. We have to do whatever we can to stop it. I don't have anything to do with something like that. I think it's bad. I've had black friends, green friends, just everything in the world, and I help them out, and we even drink some beer sometime, you know, together. But that's but they're all good people out there.
Thank you. Candidate Polly?
So I guess lit drinks are on Larry after the forum. Is that what I heard? This is really a First Amendment issue for me when I look at our constitutional rights being protected, rights to religion, rights to freedom of speech, rights to have no religion whatsoever. But I do have some concerns with the Orange County Human Relations Council and the fact that it is funded by the county so that it needs to, and I guess there's some private partnership in it, it needs to find things to keep itself busy. And there are certain groups that are professional victims, and that is a problem. That is a problem that needs to be looked at. I honestly believe that if we work together, and when I talk about working together as a community, that's respecting one another, but there are those that maybe wish to do us harm, and when you point that out, they scream hate, and they're redefining what hate speech is. And in fact, when they do that, they are attempting to suppress speech because they don't want certain things being said that need to be said for the greater protection of our society.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Well, when I think about this, I think about all the attacks I've always had on me. I mean, I've had attacks because I'm a Hispanic. I've had attacks because I was poor. I've had attacks because I'm a Democrat. I've had attacks because I'm a woman. I've had attacks because I'm a Christian. Yeah. You know, so I know what it feels like to be attacked for everything. I'm sure, you know, because I have brown eyes or because I have small feet or... and it just has to stop. But you know what? I don't sit there and become a victim about it either, right? I stand up for my rights, and I fight for my rights. You know, I'm not going to let somebody else decide who I am or what I am. And we have to take personal responsibility, and we each have to take responsibility to ensure when we say this kind of hatred and attitude happening, that we stick up for people in the right way. And one of the ways that we do at the county level is that we have a Human Relations Commission. And we need to put that and institute that correctly, not the way that it's been haphazardly done in the last couple of years by this Board of Supervisors, but really have a place to go to if we have a legitimate concern.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
All right. Well, I'm going to just start by saying no, I don't think the Human Relations Commission is in the business of trying to keep itself busy. There are a bunch of yahoos in the community that are doing that and keeping them busy quite well, thank you very much. And it's those yahoos we need to stand up against. For example, when an epitaph was scrawled on a synagogue in Irvine, well, those aren't professional victims. Those are real victims. And it's not just the Jewish community in Irvine that was a victim. It was every person in Irvine of goodwill who was victimized by that. So what happened? What we did is we pulled together the entire community. Two things. First, a press conference where we announced a reward for the capture of that particular Yahoo, and it was spearheaded by the ADL. And at it were Christian pastors, for example, Mark Whitlock. At it was Sheikh Atta from the local Islamic community. We had folks from the Human Relations Commission. I was there on behalf of the city, and we did, in fact, offer a reward, which the council then doubled at my motion the next council meeting. And then we started this year off with an interfaith invocation at our very first council meeting to say to our community, we stand with any victims.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, our next question. What is your plan for the toll roads? Are they profitable or... And this goes to Candidate Bales first.
Well, if a toll road is built because the developer wants access to his land so he can develop it, well, I don't think that's a very good thing, because most of them are not paying for themselves. So you have to pay for it through your taxes and everything else. So be very careful of voting for, more toll roads.
Okay, Candidate Pauly.
Transportation and the ability to get from point A to point B is one of those things that is a primary, a basic public function. There are some things that we should be doing for ourselves, but there are some things that are unreasonable to expect individuals to do for themselves, and that is to provide those roads. You know, it sounds good to have a private enterprise build a road and then make money off of it, but you know, how many of you have driven the toll roads? They're really pretty empty, and that becomes a problem because there are other roads that are public roads for we the people that are jam-packed, and I get excited if I get up to 25 miles per hour on the 55. There's something really wrong about that. I think we need to open the public roads for the public so they can get to where they need to be. If it was profitable, it would be packed, but I don't think it is.
Thank you. Candidate Sanchez.
Well, certainly we know that the 73 is not profitable, and the 241, well, it's just sitting there teetering, and but that's not the biggest issue with the toll road. The toll road is that it dumps out on Santiago and Chapman and goes through our, people cut from there and they go through our neighborhoods and they back up our traffic. And, we saw it in particular when we had the evacuations going on. And so, you know, nobody gave any thought to how that was going to affect our neighborhoods and our ability to get to our jobs and to get around town. And so what we really need to do is take a look at transportation in the whole, not just a toll road here or a toll road there for people to get from point A, for people to, because we can't afford housing, for people to be coming in from San Bernardino to come to Irvine for a job, for example. Those toll roads are affecting us. They're affecting our neighborhoods. And so we need a voice in that. Our communities need more of a voice in all of this planning. And as a supervisor, that's what I would do.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
I'm actually going to agree with an awful lot that I just heard from Ms. Sanchez. The truth is, toll roads are here. They are a part of a solution. They're not the only answer, and if you're going to build even more of them, we need to do the kind of hard-looking and comprehensive looking at the problem that was outlined just a couple of minutes ago. Because a toll road is a means from point A to point B, but once you get to point B, well, it's really rare that you need to be at the end of the toll road. You then need to be out into the communities. And we've got to make sure that we have comprehensive solutions to the movement of people into and out of this county, not just when there are fires. Then it is, of course, critically important, but day in and day out. And so I am looking at toll roads as one leg of the 3- or 4-legged stool that goes into transportation in the entire county of Orange. And the good thing that you got with transportation, realize, of course, is the OCTA, the Board of Supervisors. Every one of them sits on it. So your voice on the Board of Supervisors will be on the OCTA.
Thank you. Candidate Murray.
Thank you. The toll roads provide critical redundancy and are funded entirely by users, and once they are paid off, will be returned over to Caltrans and belong to everybody. So it's a way to get significant investment that are paid for by individuals, but what we absolutely have to make sure is those improvements that are made are done so in a way that are sensitive to the surrounding communities. For instance, the flyover that is needed off the 241 onto the 91, so it's not backing up into Chapman and some of the exits that are then people are diverting naturally out of the toll roads because it's backing up so hard into our communities. We've got to make sure that extension gets through. We've got to make sure that we have the redundancy and completion of the project. Part of the reason it's not seeing its full potential and value is because it actually ends in an area that doesn't directly connect back into the transportation and highway networks. We've got to make sure it is completed, and then once it is, it'll alleviate and organically reduce congestion on the rest of our system. But we can't continue to widen the 5 and the 55 anymore. We've got to take advantage of these additional opportunities that we have that the toll road network provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have time for one question, but I'm going to do 2. So the question I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to give you the minute time. I'm just going to have you answer it real quick, and you're going to see why. And then I'll do the last question after that. So this question, which we're not going to allow a minute for, is what area do you reside in? If you could just start with that, candidate Polly.
Orange.
Orange.
North Irvine.
Anaheim Hills. Anaheim Hills.
I'm a Tustin Tuffy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, our last question of the evening, and then we'll have closing statements. And I'm going to start with candidate Polly because that would be the fair thing to do, I think, since that was a quick question. What drives your choices? How do you determine what to support, what to propose, and how to vote? Please be as specific as possible.
Thank you. That's a great question because I think my decision-making process is probably the most important thing for you to consider. None of us really know what the emerging problems will be that this county will face. There are problems that are here right now, but how are things going to look in the future? The very first thing I do, and I've been like this for a really long time, is I read all the material that's provided to me. I read the material. I don't have staff read the material because I want to see it myself. Then I go to staff and I ask questions. Then I go to the professional staff and I ask questions. Then I do some of my own research. And one thing that I've talked about a little bit earlier was what I like to call my sanity check. I don't know everything, and I know I don't know everything. There are experts in areas where you put a budget in front of some people that have expertise because they have done auditing work. It's like sight reading music for them. Look at this for me. Go to realtors. How will this impact you? Go to those people who are going to be most impacted by it. And then finally, just let me wrap this one sentence up because it's imperative. The most important thing I do is send an email out to my constituents to seek their feedback to find out how they feel about what's getting ready to happen. That's how I represent my people.
Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Sanchez.
Well, first and foremost, I gather information, and I think about it. Then I seek out experts. For example, I carry the endorsement of Dr. James Doty. He's an economist. He was the Chapman president. He also was my professor in econometrics. And he said to someone the other day, the reason I support Loretta is when she was back in Washington, D.C., she'd always be calling us, Dr. Doty, Dr. Essia Deeby, Lynn Pearson Doty, when it was about economics, trying to see how is it going to affect Orange County? How is it really going to affect our economy? And of course, get information from our community, have a big community input into the situation. And third, and I think most important, because you know what? God gave me a good brain, and you all gave me a good education. My gut. My gut is always that final push of which way to go. And whenever I've gone against my gut, I've made the wrong call. You know, so get information, talk to you, talk to the experts, and go with the gut.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
I'm going to go a little bit different direction. As an elected official, yes, we've got to do our reading. We've got to do our homework. We've got to talk with the experts because what do we know? We're politicians. You know, I'm a politician and a lawyer. I need the experts to give me the information. But I think, Stephanie, your question gets to something a little bit more than just going and seeking out smart people. It's then what do you do with it? And it's run it through a filter, run it through principles. As I said, am a lawyer. I got started by studying the Constitution. I'm the founder of the Orange County chapter of the Federalist Society. The idea is to make sure that we stick to the founding principles that made this country great. And in deciding what to do, I apply those first principles to any of the decisions that I'm going to end up having to make. Is this consistent with liberty? Last quick point, I keep in my office a picture of the Liberty Bell, and I've blown up on it the phrase, the inscription, and I think every one of us who's in elected office ought to have that in mind. Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. That's my filter.
Thank you.
First, I don't think of myself as a politician, never have. I'm a public servant, and first and foremost, I work for you. So my first action is always to seek input from the community, and I take that to heart. I hosted a number of town halls throughout the year to bring the community together because so much can be done organically just by meeting together and feeding off of each other and getting everybody's inputs and everybody bouncing ideas back and forth. And every time I've had a town hall, no question has ever been off the table. It is about taking questions about and really encouraging people to bring their ideas and speak up. But I do my homework. I work really hard. It is what I'm known for, and I roll up my sleeves to get something done and to get it done right. Because we shouldn't be looking to check a box. We should be looking to make sure that any policies adopted has long-term benefits for the communities we serve. So it should never be about politics, and it should always be about community, and that's my filter, that's my focus, and it is the principle that first and foremost drives me as a public official. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in my personal life, I try to be extremely honest with me, my kids, and all my friends, and everything else. And my decision process is based on what's the best decision I can make. And as an elected official, I represent you, not any special interest or anything else, and what has to be done. And as my history will tell you, that I've come across some very bad things in my life that had to be honest, and it didn't help my life any with the retaliations I received. But Prop 13 come out of it, other things come out of it. I tried to be honest with our election process. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to closing statements, and since we started with candidate Polly, we're going to go backwards and start with candidate Bales and move down the table towards me. It's 1 minute. Yes. 1 minute closing statement. Candidate Bales, I'll have you do the closing statement first, and then we'll have candidate Murray, and we'll move down the table towards me.
You know, if I'm elected, I will represent you, which you haven't had in years. So that's my whole thing. My history is honesty, integrity, and at a high cost to me with retaliations that I've received. It's not fun to be a whistleblower, but I've done that, and I've helped our election process. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here, and thank you to the Foothill Community Association and the League of Women Voters who made this event possible, because these programs don't happen by accident, and it takes an awful lot of hard work. So the volunteers, I'll take part of my 1 minute to say thank you. I'm running to serve you, and for no other purpose. I want to do the work. I want to roll up my sleeves and get the job done and work for you every single day. I will be accessible to you every single day. It's my personal cell phone on the website. So if you have a question you didn't think of tonight or that didn't get answered, or you have a question about any of my answers, please don't hesitate to call and let me know. I'd be happy to have that conversation with you. It is not about rhetoric, it's about results. I didn't take swipes at anyone up here tonight, even though some of the things that were directed, as you might have known, were at me. It's not about taking that bait. It's about being here to talk to you about the issues. And that's why I put in place a campaign pledge, a clean campaign pledge, because residents deserve more than rhetoric and mudraking and swipes. They want to know, you deserve to know where we are on the issues and what we'll do if elected. I humbly ask for your vote. The ballots are in the mail. I will be there for you every single day. And I hope I've earned your support tonight, but please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you again.
Thank you, and I also echo the thanks that you're all coming out and taking an active interest in the life of your community. That's what all of us up here have done, and you may not like to be called a politician, but when you stand for office and you want to make policy out in the body politic, that's what you are. And we need to hear from you in terms of how we go about doing our jobs. So events like this are critically important, and I thank you. Look, I'll end where I began. I came here in 1991 with my wife and a couple of little kids, and we never looked back to LA from whence we came, because this is a great community, the one we've lived in since 1991, indeed the one that I was privileged to serve in the state legislature. This community is an absolutely fantastic community, made so not by the government and not by what comes out of City Hall or Hall of Administration or Sacramento, made great by the people that are in the community. You're looking to preserve it. I'm looking for the opportunity to help you preserve it. This is an important role. You need someone who is extremely experienced to get done what you need to get done for you. I'd appreciate the opportunity to do it again.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. So you have all protected this very special 3rd District. And I am here to tell you tonight that I will also protect it. The general plans, the specific plans. The only thing that will change is if you want it to change. And I know how deeply you hold what you have as the gem of Orange County. I want to protect us when there are fires. I want to protect us from crime. I want to protect those who can't protect themselves, the homeless who need a place to live, those who suffer from mental health, who need help, those who are on opiate and other crises going on. All of that goes through the county. I have a record of having worked on all of that. Of the 20 years I was in the Congress, 16 of those years, the Congress was controlled by Republicans. And yet, I brought back the money, I worked with my local officials, I worked with all the agencies, and we got so much done for Orange County. I want to do that for you. I want to continue, and you know why? Because Orange County is my home, and I care about it. My entire family is here, and we love this county, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you. Candidate Polly.
Thank you. There are a lot of really good people in Orange County. There are a lot of really good people in the 3rd District. There are a lot of really good people in this room. I've been thankful to meet so many of you and have talked with so many of you. You've made me aware and you have edified and informed me about things that I didn't know about. I just found out that there was a planning department plan to have a mixed-use overlay over all Orange County property, Orange County zoned property. That would have been a tremendously horrible thing for the 3rd District since it would have affected our land here. I'm a fighter, I'm a scrapper, and I think that's what you probably need to help protect what you have out here. I've seen how you've had to fight your own government with lawsuits just to make sure that what you were promised when you moved here are still here. I will fight for you. I will be your first line of defense. I will be accessible. I'm the only candidate who provided her personal cell phone number and her personal email on the ballot information, the voter information. My name is Deborah Pauley. I humbly ask for your vote, and I look forward to working with you to keep this area of Orange County great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates. You guys were great candidates, and the audience was great as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Good job. I wish the best of luck to all of you. And I think Rick Nelson would like to say a few comments in closing, or are we good?
Oh, sure.
You want to say something? Okay, great. Thanks again, guys.
Well, I would also like to thank the candidates and the League of Women Voters. I think it was a very informative forum, and we had a lot of good things to think about. I think we'll be better informed for the upcoming special election. Scott Logue has recorded it, the whole event, and so we'll be putting it on our website. So I'd like to plug 2 things. The FCA annual meeting, first Monday in March, and the theme is reducing residential crime. That was talked about several times here. And then also there's a table at the back where people want to talk to you about the rezoning to higher density of the Tustin Hills Racquet Club. So thank you.